In this video, I'm going to show you the steps for solving equations, and I'm going to start with solving one-step equations first, and I'll show you 4 examples. But here are kind of my rules, my way of solving equations. So number 1, identify the variable that you are going to solve for. Make sure you know where it is. Step number 2, using inverse operations, you will undo the addition or subtraction, multiplication or division, or the number to move it away from the variable. Step number 3, sorry about that. Now your equation must be balanced. Therefore, add or subtract, multiply or divide, but make sure you do this inverse operation, so that's probably why I had it as number 2. Whatever your inverse operation is, you need to do that from both sides of your equal sign. Okay, step number 3. The variable should be by itself, and if it is by itself, then your equation is solved. So here's a note. Sometimes your variable will be alone, but it will be negative. Now that's okay. There's just one step to do then. Remember, the variable is supposed to be positive, so kind of as a quick review, our goal is to get the variable alone and positive. So if it's not positive, all you need to do is divide both sides by -1. Likewise, you could multiply both sides of your equation by -1, and that will fix your problem. Okay, step number 4. Always check your solution by plugging it back into your equation to make sure that it works. So you'll see me do this in each of my examples below. So here are 4 examples of solving equations, and most of these are just going to be one step. I think one of them involves a couple steps. Okay, now, for my question 1, it says, show all undue operations in my work. First, what I'm going to do is identify my variable. So I'm going to solve for the letter R. Now, right now, that letter R is being multiplied by -3. So how do I undo a multiplication? Well, how I undo multiply is divide by -3. Or my fraction sign. Divide by -3. I don't know why I wrote divide. I mean, that's my fraction here. So now if I divide by -3, -3 divided by -3, that will cancel out here on the right side. So on this side of my equation, I have my R alone and positive. And now if I simplify 18 divided by -3, I will get -6. Now that I have my solution, I'm going to check. Is 18 equal to -3 times -6? Is 18 equal to a negative times a negative, which will make this positive? 3 times 6 is 18. Yes, it worked. All right, number 2. The variable that I'm going to solve for here is a variable x. And right now, x is being divided by 9. My solution is -10. So if I want to get x alone and positive, how I undo division, the opposite of division, would be to multiply both sides by 9. So notice here, my inverse operation, you got to do that to both sides. So if I multiply both sides by 9, those are going to cancel out, so I'll have x alone and positive here. And that will equal, now if I simplify this, 10 times -9 is -90. Don't forget to check your work. Is -90, if I plug this back in, divided by 9 equal to -10? Well, use your calculator. Let's see. You shouldn't need a calculator, but totally okay if we just want to confirm for our brain's sake. Is -90 divided by 9 equal to -10? Yes, it is. It checked out. Okay. Number 3. Now this one looks a little more complicated, but really, hopefully, it's a simpler step than you think, than it appears. Subtracting a negative is really the same thing as adding. So really what this is saying is x plus 2 is equal to -11. Now this is a lot more simple than what you saw before. I only have one step here, so how do I undo the addition to get my variable x all alone? Well, the opposite of addition would be subtraction. Make sure you do that to both sides of your equal sign. My x now will be alone and positive because that's going to cancel out. And negative 11 minus 2 more would be negative 13. Now what I'm going to do is check my work. Okay, my original was minus a negative. Is x, which is now negative 13, minus a negative 2 equal to negative 11? Okay, let's check. Subtracting a negative is really the same thing as addition. Is negative 13 plus 2 equal to negative 11? Yes, it is. All right, number 4. In this example, I have the variable x that I want to get alone and positive. My first step would be to get rid of this subtract 5 in the front. So what I want to do is undo a subtract 5 by adding 5 to both sides of my equal sign. Now my x is alone, but it's not positive. That's okay. So I have negative x, because there's a subtract sign there, that stays, and that will equal now negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. Now in this case, I'm going to do what my bullet point here says. If your variable is not positive, so how do you make a negative positive? We're going to divide both sides by negative 1. So divide this side by negative 1, divide this side by negative 1, and now I should have a positive x and my solution of negative 2. Don't forget, you should always check your work. So if I substitute in my negative 2 here, my equation would read negative 5 minus the x value of negative 2. So notice how I'm plugging in that x, a negative 2. That should equal negative 3. Is it true to say that negative 5 plus 2 is equal to negative 3? Yes, it is. Great job.